Welcome to the Cookeville-Putnam County Animal Shelter. The shelter here is one of the nicest, most efficient in the region. But that doesn't happen all by itself. It takes a load of volunteers every week just to ensure that the shelter is able to open and run 7 days a week with such a limited staff. Maintaining a facility of this size requires a lot of work, and we would not be able to keep it up as well as we do without the help of volunteers who are committed and dedicated to spending their time each week helping the shelter. Volunteer opportunities are great here at the shelter. We have many opportunities that are not just limited to interaction with the animals. They also include caring for the needs of the animals, making sure that the animals live in a clean, well-appointed environment with plenty of social interaction helps us ensure that they find their permanent forever home with the best possible family. Volunteers are essential to helping us maintain not only the cleanliness of the facility, but the physical, emotional well-being of the animals housed here. Socialization and a clean environment help the animals here have less stress and be happier while they're staying with us. As you've indicated your interest in being a volunteer, we'd like to take a few minutes and show you just exactly what volunteering here at the shelter is all about. We're going to start with a brief tour of the facility. We're going to include some testimonials from some of the volunteers here. Then we're going to go on into some more specific training. If you decide that this really is what you want to do, watch the video through to completion and you will have most all of your questions answered. Thank you. Let's go. Let's begin your training with a brief tour of the facility. The hub of operations here at the shelter is just inside the front door. The lobby is the first thing you see as you come in and the last stop you're going to make before you leave. We strive to give the best possible first impression both of our facility and our customer service. Friendly, courteous greeters and telephone operators are much more welcoming than an empty lobby or unapproachable people. However, that being said, this volunteer post can be the most daunting and busy of all areas in the shelter most days, with the phone ringing continuously and people flowing past with a myriad of questions to be answered. Here at the front desk, staff and volunteers greet visitors, answer phone calls, take reports of missing and found animals, fill up goodie bags for those who've recently adopted. They keep our adoption folders full and supplied with copies of helpful information. They file away all the paperwork associated with the adoption process. It takes a knowledgeable, friendly volunteer to help guide and inform people who are coming to us in crisis situations and times of heightened emotions. Remember, let's be sensitive, compassionate, and professional when handling these situations. Just down the hall is another very busy room, the laundry room. Believe it or not, shelter maintenance generates a ton of laundry each day. On any given day, we do about 6 to 10 loads of laundry. Just keeping it washed, folded, dried, put away is enough to keep one volunteer hopping for several hours. We also use this room as our grooming station. Many animals coming into the shelter are just plain nasty, or they have wounds that need to be washed, fleas that have to be removed, or skin conditions in need of immediate treatment. One of the most important and often least appreciated jobs at the shelter is keeping the kennels and cages clean. A visit to the shelter can be overwhelming with all the sights, sounds, and smells. It's important that we present a clean, fresh environment for our visitors, as well as the animals here. Clean, presentable kennels and common areas welcome visitors and help them understand that the level of care we give the animals housed here is top priority. The cleaner a kennel stays, the cleaner the animal stays, and the more likely it is to be well received by the potential adopters who come through here each day looking for just the right pet to take home. A clean space also helps encourage the mental and physical well-being of the animals in our care. Shelter life is very stressful for the animals. We try to make every effort to relieve as much of that stress as possible. As the number of animals in the building increases, so does the need for more frequent cleanings. You see, we clean the building every morning before the shelter ever opens, but throughout the day, a lot of waste is generated, and it becomes necessary to do spot cleaning just to keep the shelter in top shape, not only for our residents, but for those who visit. One of the most physically challenging volunteer opportunities here at the shelter involves the actual handling of the animals. Most of the dogs coming into the shelter are strays, and they have very little experience walking on a leash or even having a collar around their neck. Some have very little socialization or exposure to other animals or even people. Volunteers who choose this area of service must have some level of physical strength, stamina, and sure-footedness, as this activity is both strenuous and hazardous. It's the responsibility of our dog walkers to help ensure that the dogs in our care get regular exercise outside of their kennel and learn some basic behaviors that are going to help them integrate more easily into their new homes. There are way too many other volunteer opportunities here at the animal shelter to list them all, but a few opportunities for volunteer include decorating the lobby for our adoption events, taking photographs of the dogs and cats for our social media posts, participating and helping with off-site adoption events, transporting animals to and from rescues and the veterinarian's office, some like grooming, and even lending a hand when educational events or donation drives come around. We even appreciate the help of those willing to keep our entrance landscaping looking fresh and neat each season. Now that you've been introduced to the shelter volunteer opportunities, take a minute and really think about whether or not this is the right fit for you. Since we don't require our volunteers to keep a regular schedule, you can come and go as frequently or infrequently as you wish, and for any amount of time that fits your lifestyle the best. Once you've completed your training, you may volunteer at your own convenience. If you determine that volunteering at the shelter really is for you, then continue on with this video series to get more in-depth instruction and answers to some of the questions I'm sure you have. There are many ways to volunteer. None is any more or less important than the other. Assess your own personal skill set and see where you can be the most useful as you join the shelter volunteer team.
Hi, my name's Mindy. I've been volunteering here at the animal shelter for just over 5 years. The main area that I work in is the lobby and front desk. The main things that I do in that area are answer the phone, greeting people as they come in the front door to give them directions about the different areas of the shelter. A lot of answering the phones a lot. I assist in help with all the animals that come in if they need help in the lobby. I also fill out adoption paperwork and contracts for people. We do a lot of filing and make copies. Just a lot of the clerical work is the area that I work in mainly. I do enjoy it. I enjoy meeting all the different animals, the cats, the dogs, guinea pigs, everything that comes in the door. It's a lot of fun, and I feel good about all the animals that are here.
As a volunteer, you're free to make your own schedule. You can volunteer at your own convenience and for any amount of time that you want during shelter hours. We ask only that you follow a simple check-in routine that allows us to document your service and identify you as a volunteer. Here in our volunteer room, we're equipped with a computer that holds our volunteer software. This computer has a touchscreen monitor, the only one in the building, and it allows you to quickly log in by simply touching the screen to input your assigned ID number. Your ID number will be the phone number you provided for us on your volunteer application without the area code. Just follow the prompts to answer a few simple questions and you're ready to go. Here in the volunteer room, we keep volunteer aprons available, and we suggest that you use them because they have handy pockets for carrying supplies like leashes, waste bag, and treats. We have 2 different kinds of aprons, but make sure when you choose one and put it on that the pockets are on the outside so that your hands can easily access the things you're trying to carry. Once you've filled up your pockets and loaded up all the supplies you need, you're ready to go. When your volunteer day is over, make sure you clean out these pockets. Remove your apron, tie the strings together so that they don't get all wound up in the laundry, and deposit them in the designated wash receptacle in the laundry room. We have lockers available for you to store your personal items while you're volunteering at the shelter, and a break room that has both a refrigerator and a microwave for your use. Just keep in mind, if you use it, clean it up. If it's trash, throw it away. We don't have a maid here. Across the hall from the front desk, you'll find 2 bathrooms for your own use. These restrooms are also made available to the general public. Make sure that when you visit the restrooms that each is well appointed with toilet tissue, paper towels, and hand soap each time you use them. If you find they need attention, please alert a staff member and they will point you in the right direction to find the appropriate supplies needed. Now that you know how to clock in and secure your personal belongings, let's get busy with some specific instructions for different volunteer tasks. Helping with the laundry is an important volunteer task here at the shelter. So much laundry is generated daily that the washer runs all day long in order to just stay caught up. Most anyone can wash, dry, and fold towels with very limited instruction. But here goes. Each load in the wash receives the recommended amount of detergent per load based on the bottle instructions and the maximum amount of bleach that the machine will hold. Hit the power button, then the start button, making sure all the wash settings are always on hot, high, and heavy. Hang out a minute and wait until you hear the water start running, then you're ready to move on to the dryer. Clean clothes go straight into the dryer. Make sure you hit the high setting. They won't dry on medium. Throw in a fresh dryer sheet and hit the start button. White laundry baskets with the word clean only are to be used for only wet or dry clean laundry. Any other unmarked basket is to be used for dirty laundry. Folded laundry is sorted and placed appropriately on the shelves in the laundry room. It takes about 50 minutes to complete a cycle both in the wash and the dryer, so you will have a few free minutes to do other tasks before it's time to repeat the process. Oh, beware! The door at the rear of the laundry room leads us out back to the outdoor kennel runs where our dogs are housed. This door receives a lot of traffic, so be careful as you stand in front of the dryer not to get run over as someone rapidly enters the door with a large dog. Moving on through the building, let's get some information about the animal areas in the shelter. You'll find that each animal at the shelter is housed in its own kennel. Cat kennels can often house more than one cat, depending on their size, and these kennels are not numbered. Dog kennels most frequently hold only a single animal and are all identified by both letter and number on a gold, triangular placard in the top left corner of the kennel. As you enter the dog dorms from the lobby, you will be entering into Dorm A, and you'll be facing an orange wall. On your left, you will see Kennel A1, and on your right, you will notice Kennel A20. Kennels 1 through 10 run down the left side of the building in both the A and B dorms, as well as on the exterior of the building. When you come to the orange wall, take a glance to the right, and you'll see kennels 11 through 20 running back toward the front door. If you go through the door in the orange wall, you will enter the blue hallway and head straight into the B dorm, which is set up identically to the A dorm. The door in the yellow wall at the back of B dorm leads into the puppy room, which is very similar to the cat room, with mobile, unlabeled kennels. Back at the blue hallway, between A and B dorms, you will find doors on either side leading outside. The left side of the building, you will find kennels 1 through 10 for both the A and B dorms, and kennels 11 through 20 are out the right door. The outdoor kennels are not labeled with an A or a B, only numbers. Keep in mind, A dorm is at the front of the building, and B dorm is at the rear. Each kennel has both indoor and outdoor access. Dogs are allowed full access to both, as long as staff is in the building. At night, all the kennels are secured and the dogs remain inside the building for their own safety. Each animal in the shelter is identified by a kennel card, placed on the front of the kennel. Cats have small blue and pink cards, while dogs have full-page white cards with their photos on them. Blue cards are, you guessed it, for boys, and the pink cards, they identify which cats are girls. Each card gives some specific information about the animal in the kennel. For example, their shelter ID number, their name, an approximate age, weight, their gender, whether or not they've been altered, an adoption fee, and how they arrived at the shelter, whether they were a stray or an owner surrender. When the information is available, these cards will also indicate how the animal reacts to other animals and children. We find this information most helpful when placing animals in the correct home environment. If an animal has come to the shelter as an owner surrender, it's immediately available for adoption. Any animal who comes to the shelter as a stray must wait 3 full business days on a stray hold so that potentially an owner can be found before it becomes shelter property and is available for adoption. These animals on a stray hold often have a yellow sign with the word hold on it. Animals are not held for any other reason, unless they are not yet large enough to be altered, at which point they must be held indefinitely until they become large enough for the alteration surgery. Cats are adoptable for $95, dogs for $160. Sometimes, generous donors will occasionally sponsor a portion of the animal's adoption fee to lower the cost. These animals have a red heart attached to their kennel card. This heart reflects their new adoption price. The adoption price does include several things. You see, animals cannot leave the shelter without being spayed or neutered. That procedure is included in the adoption fee, along with their microchipping and vaccinations, and other things. If an adopted animal has already been spayed or neutered, it will go straight home with its adopter. But if the animal has not yet had the opportunity to be spayed or neutered, the surgery will be scheduled at the time of adoption, and the animal will stay at the shelter until the day of the surgery. Shelter staff will transport the animal to the surgical facility, where the animal will remain overnight for observation. The adopter will pick up the animal at the clinic the day after the surgery to receive full instructions by the clinician. One of the most important things we need to remember to share with adopters is that all fees at the shelter are collected as cash or check only at the time of adoption. We don't have the ability to accept any other form of electronic payment. Remember, there will be questions you are not able to answer, so quickly and politely refer those questions to a staff member. Next, we'll focus on the ins and outs of getting a shelter pet adopted into their forever home.
My name is Brittany. I've been a volunteer here at the animal shelter since, I guess it was February 2015, so I've been coming back for over 5 years now. I'm trained to do pretty much anything in the shelter that they need me to do, so I work with the cats and dogs, but most of the time I end up with the dogs, helping people meet with them and see if they want to adopt them. My favorite part is probably working with the public. I really love just meeting people all day, every day, and that's just a plus on top of spending all day with the dogs. We all love animals here, but on top of that, I just really love the community of volunteers here and the staff. We're all kind of a big family here, so I just love coming back and seeing them and spending time with them and working to get animals new homes.
People come to the shelter in hope of finding just the right pet to take home. We are their #1 resource in making this life-altering decision. When greeting a potential adopter, be friendly, courteous, and ask them exactly what it is they're looking for in a pet. encouraging them that you want to help point them in the right direction of just the right one for them. It's important to ask open-ended questions that will lead you to help find the most suitable candidate for them. Questions like, do they live in a house with a yard? Or an apartment that may have breed or size restrictions imposed? Whether or not they have other dogs, cats, or livestock, even chickens at the house. These kind of questions help us to weed out some unsuitable candidates. It's also important to ask questions about the activity level that they're looking for in an animal, based on their own activity level and the children that may or may not be present in the household. Ask if there is anything in particular that they're looking for in a dog or cat in regards to disposition or ability to participate in a certain activity. Other preferences that people consider are gender, shedding habits, whether or not they're house trained, and size. The answer to these questions and other questions help us include or exclude possible adoption candidates for them to meet. Once an appropriate candidate or candidates has been chosen, volunteers can bring each of the animals to the adopter one at a time for a one-on-one meeting to see which one of them makes a love connection. We use meet and greet rooms to introduce dogs to potential adopters. These meet and greet rooms are found in the blue hallway between dorms A and B. We're also able to use outdoor kennel runs for the same purpose. Dogs are brought from their outside kennels into a meet and greet room after they've had an opportunity to relieve themselves in the yard. When entering the meet and greet room, please keep your dog on a leash until you're sure that the dog and the potential adopters are comfortable with one another and will behave appropriately. Especially if there are children in the room, use extra caution. Never leave people unattended with an animal that you have concerns about behaving poorly, or an animal who may be frightened. Use this opportunity as they meet this new animal to explain our shelter adoption procedures and answer any questions that may arise. It is appropriate, in some occasions, to allow the potential adopters to walk the dog on a leash or to play with them in the playground if there is a particular concern that needs to be addressed. But never ever leave them unattended with the dog. It's also recommended that if adopters have another dog at home, that you encourage them to bring that dog back to the shelter to introduce it to their new potential adoptee to ensure that they're going to get along, to make the home transition less stressful. Dogs can also be walked through the cat room on leash to observe their reaction to cats if the adopter is concerned about having cats at home. If you're not sure how to read the dog's reaction in the cat room, please ask a staff member for assistance. Cats are introduced to potential adopters right in the cat room where they're housed. Volunteers will remove and replace the cat from the kennel, and adopters are allowed to hold and interact with cats under supervision only. Take care that adopters sanitize their hands if they're interacting with more than one cat. Cats are allowed down on the floor in the cat room, but they must remain supervised at all times. No one but staff and volunteers are allowed to enter into colony rooms and nurseries. Once a potential adopter has decided to adopt a particular animal, or two, they're going to head to the front desk to begin the paperwork portion of the adoption process. This rather complicated, lengthy process begins with collecting personally identifying information on the adopter and beginning the microchip registration process. During this process, the animal will be microchipped by staff and potentially heartworm tested if that has not yet been done. The animal will be fitted for a collar or harness and sent out the door on a secure leash if the adopters have not come properly prepared. This is also the time when unaltered pets are scheduled for a surgical appointment at the clinic, and all surgical release forms are signed by the adopter. Once all this paperwork is completed, and the staff has finished microchipping the animal being adopted, the happy family is given a goodie bag of donated items and sent out the door with their new pet or given pickup instructions for the next day. Another wonderful aspect of volunteering here at the shelter is seeing animals brought into the shelter return to their original owners. With the help of resources like microchips, lost and found reports, and local lost and found resources on Facebook, it's exciting to see animals frequently returned home. Our goal is to find permanent placement for the animals housed here, and to provide the type of customer service and animal care that encourages adopters to do business with us. In the next section, we will explore the joys of dog walking. Section 4. Walking the dog. If your heart's desire is to participate in our dog walking program, there are some things that you need to be made aware of. Walking shelter dogs is not the equivalent of taking your own dog for a walk down the neighborhood street. One needs a fair amount of strength, coordination, and physical stamina to walk a shelter dog. Most of the dogs coming into the shelter have little or no experience being walked on a leash. Many dogs at the shelter have no manners and are not used to being contained for long periods of time. This makes just getting them leashed up and out of their kennel a challenging experience. Once on leash, be prepared for takeoff as they bolt out the door and drag you around the yard. That being said, getting them out of the kennel and back in again is the most logical place to start with this training exercise. Let's take a look at how we open and close the kennel and guillotine doors. I'm going to demonstrate the proper, most effective way to open and close a kennel. The kennel mechanism operates like this: up, slide, and down. Always open the kennel inside. First thing we need to do is pull the kennel lever up, in, and back out. We want to make sure that the latch catches on the back side of the opposing kennel. That way, if a dog jumps against the door, it can't get out past us. Making sure that the lever is up and not down, because it's very difficult to get to it when it's down. The lever being up, you want to go into the kennel with your right foot first and close the door behind you. While in the kennel, make sure your foot stays firmly against the bottom door. As you exit the kennel, you want to do the exact opposite. You want to open into, go out with your left leg, making sure that the bar to the kennel latch still catches on the opposing post. Put your foot against the kennel door, slide the mechanism, and lock the door. Now, if for some reason you have to move away from the door once inside, we're going to go back in, and we're going to lock ourselves in so that we can move away from the door. Gently slide the mechanism back and forth, halfway, still being up, so that you can either move it with your finger here or with your fingers here. At that point, you can move away from the door without risking the dog being able to get out of the kennel. Once you need to remove yourself from the kennel, you grab either here or here, slide, open gently, and return the bolt to the locked position to exit the kennel. However, it is not uncommon to find yourself with a dog jumping against the gate and yourself locked in. The only way to get yourself out is to reach through the bars, grab the latch, and twist it up and over the gray stop so that you can release yourself and get out. I made that look really easy. Make sure you keep your foot at the base of the door so that when you release the latch, a dog doesn't push its way out. I'm going to demonstrate it with the kennel with a kind of rowdy dog in it to make sure you understand the full concept. Dogs should be taken from their outdoor kennels whenever possible. The reasoning behind this is to limit the noise within the shelter interior. The shelter is an enclosed concrete block building, and the noise of 20 loudly barking dogs quickly becomes uncomfortable, both for the dogs and the people inside the building. By removing the dogs on the exterior side of their kennel, we can limit the amount of noise inside the building, as well as give the dogs a moment to relieve themselves if necessary before taking them back inside to meet an adopter or out for a walk. Remember, if your dog leaves a smelly prize anywhere on the grounds, that prize is yours to claim and put in the proper waste receptacle. Enter kennels cautiously when dealing with any dog you're unfamiliar with. Having a treat handy is always a good place to start. Do not enter the kennel of any dog that you're afraid of. Dogs sense your fear and they may react negatively. If there are 2 dogs in a kennel, make sure you lock one inside so that you're only dealing with one dog at a time as you're preparing to enter and exit the kennel. You can always throw treats to the rear of the kennel to attract the dog's attention in the opposite direction as you enter and leave. Make sure the dog is securely leashed before ever attempting to exit the kennel with the animal. We highly recommend the use of our play yard before attempting any type of leash training exercise with shelter dogs. The play yard accommodates 1 dog at a time, unless 2 dogs share the same kennel or a play group is in session. Under these circumstances, 1 or more dogs may be allowed in the play yard, but only with adequate supervision. Always make sure to verify that the play yard is empty before you unleash your dog. In summer months, pools and sprinklers are made available for use in the play yard, and year-round there is agility equipment available to challenge and stimulate dogs, as well as a bucket full of dog balls and tug toys. Keep a constant eye on your dog while you're in the yard to prevent escape. They can, in some spots, wiggle under the fence. Some have even tried to climb it. Those very genius few are able to manipulate the gate and walk right out of their own accord. So be vigilant. Keep a constant eye out for any prizes they may leave you while in the play yard. It is still your responsibility to claim those prizes and properly dispose of them before you leave the play yard. Limit each dog's yard time to 15 minutes, unless a playgroup is in session. If a playgroup is in session, dogs are allowed slightly more time to play. After the dog has had ample time to run off some steam, leash them back up and work on some leash skills. Try to help your charge learn proper leash walking behavior by encouraging them with treats and frequent praise. Walk near cars, fences, trees, and other objects that will provide exposure and stimulation. However, you may not leave shelter property or use the members-only dog park next door to the shelter. It's always beneficial to walk dogs through the shelter lobby and laundry area to expose them to household sounds, sights, and smells. Beware, anytime you enter the shelter, there may be other dogs in the area, so make sure your dog is well contained. This also helps staff evaluate the dog's reactions to these types of stimulation. While walking, you can take the opportunity to work on basic commands like sit, stay, or shake. Treats will be your best friend in this endeavor, so make sure you have a pocket full of them in your apron pocket, along with a good supply of poop bags. They often come in handy. We mentioned playgroups earlier. Playgroups are established by the shelter director and staff. They evaluate dogs for compatibility, temperament, and energy level. When the evaluation is complete and they have established a playgroup, the playgroup will be designated on the census board. Playgroups get out more frequently and for longer periods of time than a single dog might. It's imperative that you consult the census board before choosing which dog you want to walk. Make sure that each dog in the shelter is getting ample time to exercise and is not being overlooked or left out without good reason. We're going to take just a minute to talk about the census board before we move on. This is our census board. This is the census board for the A dorm. The number 1 correlates to the first kennel in A dorm, kennel number 1. The second, kennel number 2. The third, kennel number 3. As you can see today, the first and second kennels in dorm A are empty. The third and fourth are full. Eris is in dorm A3. She was walked on Tuesday afternoon. Alexios is in dorm A4, and as of yet, Alexios has not been walked either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of this week. Now then, Jackie is in dorm A7, and when Jackie is adopted, she cannot go to a home with kids because Jackie is a little too aggressive with children. Raven, next to Jackie in dorm 8, is fixed. Because she is fixed, she can go home already with an adopter. But unfortunately, Raven has tested heartworm positive, so she will require some extra medical treatment. Raven and Jackie, neither one have been walked this week. Over here in kennel number 10, you can see we have 2 names, Inbar and Ishtar. They came together as puppies. They are small dogs, and they are kenneled together because they are a bonded pair. Scarlet is fixed. Sadie in dorm 14 does not like big dogs. Sadie only tolerates small dogs. So we use this census board to indicate whether a dog has been adopted, sponsored, which means that money's been paid toward their adoption fees. The F indicates that they're not female, they're spay or neutered and ready to go home. If they are sick and can't go outside and be with the other dogs, then they have a mark KC next to their name, which means they have kennel cough and should not go outside. If they have a PG beside their name, for example, like Alexios and Andromeda, they are in play group 1 together, so they can go out together as a pair and play. If we have an EF, they need extra food because they're losing too much weight. And an HT indicates that they have been surrendered by their owner, and their owner told us that they were house trained already. We use the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday boxes to indicate the days on which the dogs are walked or go outside to play. It's very important that if you take a dog out that you mark that it has gone out. That way we know which dogs have yet to have exercise for the week and which dogs still need exercise. If you'll follow me right down here to Census Board B, this board correlates to our Kennel Room B and also is the same as the board we just saw. You will see in Kennel Dorm B at this current time only a few dogs in a few kennels, 13, 18, 19, and 20, are in Dorm B. So for the most part, Dorm B is relatively empty. Rosie and Chico came in together from a home. They are both fixed and they are both house trained. They are ready to go home with the doctor immediately. It's important that each dog gets time out in the play yard each week. Some dogs, based on their length of stay and temperament, will need more frequent outings. Some dogs, due to illness or surgical recovery, will be limited to the amount of time and the type of exercise that they are allowed to have. Make sure that no dog still in surgical recovery is allowed off-leash in the yard until their 10-day recovery period is passed. No dog with kennel cough is allowed to be out at all. Make sure that all open gates are closed securely before unleashing a dog. Choose a walking partner that you can physically and mentally handle with ease. If you're unfamiliar with an animal, please ask staff or another volunteer for information on that dog before taking it out, if you feel the least bit uncertain about its behavior. If for some reason a dog gets loose from you, either at the kennel gate or from the play yard, quickly alert staff so that they can help contain the animal before it's injured or gets into mischief. Walking shelter dogs is exhausting, so you may need to pace yourself until you have sufficient stamina to walk very many dogs at once. We ask that for the first week or two, as you learn the ins and outs of the process, that you stick with an experienced dog walker for security and procedural help. Be aware of the fact that dogs often relieve themselves in the most traveled areas. Make sure that you clean up any feces you find so that you don't track it into the building or pass parasites between dogs. Waste receptacles are available in every area, so make sure you have poop bags on hand at all times. Walking shelter dogs is not only rewarding, but a very necessary part of ensuring happy, healthy dogs find their way into new homes quickly. If you don't feel quite up to the daunting feat of walking a shelter dog, check out our cat room opportunities.
I'm Bob McMillan. I'm a volunteer dog walker at the shelter. I do some other tasks as well, help clean and all that, but mostly I do the walking. I've been doing it for about a year and a half. I've always had dogs, and when I retired, I decided I wanted to know more about dogs. I wanted to know more about their body language, their behaviors, that sort of thing. And it struck me that coming to a place like this, I could meet a lot of dogs in a hurry. So I began volunteering, and one of the things I learned, besides learning how to read dogs better and some of the things about why they do what they do, I learned that dogs really appreciate just people. The dogs here are highly stressed, and they really need the human touch. They need human affection. They just need to be around people, and that's where the volunteers can really shine. They help reduce the stress for the dogs. This kind of environment is corrosive to a dog. In as little as 2 weeks, it can begin to affect them in a negative sort of way. And the more they're handled, the more they're walked, the more they're talked to, it just helps them while they're here. It helps them maintain their sanity and just stay adoptable. So that's what I really enjoy doing, is just helping the dogs while they're here. They give back to you though too. They really, that deep sincere appreciation. You bond with them a lot, and you get a lot out of being with the dogs as well.
Fifth segment, perfect kittens. Another popular volunteer area is in the cat room. The cat population at the shelter fluctuates wildly in the spring as kitten season rolls around. Every inch of available space is occupied by kittens and nursing moms from May to August each year. This makes cleaning and care much more intensive during this time. Thanks to regular volunteers and fosters, these babies are provided a frequently cleaned habitat and regular human contact in the hopes of socializing them appropriately for a new home environment. Kitten nurseries and cat kennels are cleaned every morning and freshened each afternoon. Food and water are made available at all times, and litter boxes are frequently maintained to help prevent overwhelming odor with so many cats in such a small space. Each cat kennel is provided with a fleece blanket or a soft bed for the cat housed there, and each habitat or nursery has a variety of interactive cat accessories to enhance the space and encourage exploration. We're fortunate to have dedicated volunteers who regularly give their time to care for the cats each week. One volunteer photographs each of the cats in order to provide us beautiful snapshots of their personalities on our social media pages for adopters to see. Another makes sure that each of the cats gets some personal attention and handling to help with stress reduction and socialization. Our volunteers in the cat room are the first source of information about adoptable cats. So this interaction will help familiarize you with the personality of each cat so that you can more easily answer questions posed by potential adopters. Caring for this many cats can be quite a job. We have the distinct privilege of being allowed to house some of our adoptable cats at the local PetSmart habitat. The shelter must provide volunteers to clean the PetSmart habitat twice a day, in accordance with our agreement with PetSmart. This volunteer opportunity is somewhat appealing to those who are in town frequently and don't necessarily want to volunteer for a lengthy amount of time. Specific instructions are given by shelter staff before you're expected to serve in this area unsupervised. Cats are at a high risk for illness while at the shelter, especially young kittens. Often, the best chance a kitten has to survive is placement with a foster. This is yet another area in which cat lovers can volunteer. Become a foster. Cats are currently the only shelter animals that qualify for our foster program, and it's most frequently kittens that have lost their moms too early who end up in desperate need of fostering. The shelter keeps in regular contact with those who are actively fostering to make sure they're well supplied and that their foster kitties are vaccinated and medicated regularly. Once these foster kitties are large enough to be adopted, 2 pounds, that's the magic number, then they're returned to the shelter and put on the adoption floor. We welcome your help in whatever capacity you feel is most suited to you, whether it's on-site here at the shelter, in our PetSmart habitat, or as a foster. Our next segment will focus on what it takes to maintain the shelter facility and keep it safe and clean for the shelter animals. Segment 6, Cleaning House. The health of shelter animals depends greatly on the cleanliness of the environment they live in. The enthusiasm of potential adopters is increased by the appearance of a clean facility as well. Each morning, the entire facility is cleaned and sanitized. All the animals are fed and watered, and medications are administered to those who are sick. With an average inventory of between 80 and 100 animals, this can be a rather physical and lengthy process with a lack of help available. Cleaning is one area that the shelter desperately needs help, and volunteers are always appreciated. Cleaning involves the removal of waste, washing and sanitizing the dishes, and the chemical sanitation of every kennel both inside and out. If you're willing to help with the cleaning process, specific instructions will be given to you when you begin to serve in this area. However, I'm going to give you a quick look at what it's like to clean the shelter. Let's begin by pointing out that all the dogs are removed from the area being cleaned before the process begins. We will shut them outside or inside based on which area is being cleaned. In the mornings, dogs are led into their outdoor kennels after being shut up in the building all night and fed while we begin cleaning on the inside. The first priority to cleaning is to use a scoop and spade to remove any and all solid waste materials left inside the kennel. This waste is disposed of in a 5-gallon bucket lined with a garbage bag, and it's emptied every morning after the cleaning process. After the solid waste is removed, all the pet beds are hung on the side walls of the kennel, and all the doors are opened inward. A water hose, attached to the janitorial sink in the chemical room, is brought into the dorm and used to spray down each kennel with warm water at high pressure in order to remove the last trace of solid waste particulates left behind. After all the kennels have been rinsed, they're sprayed with a sanitizing chemical that must sit for 10 minutes before it's rinsed off. After the final rinsing, all the floors are squeegeed dry and wiped down with a towel to ensure that the floors are dry before turning the dogs back in. During this process, the beds are also washed, sanitized, and dried with towels. The kennel doors are closed, and the dogs are brought back in and shut in with the guillotine door once more so that the process can be repeated on the external. The dishes are collected outside and brought in to be washed and sanitized after the kennels have all been cleaned. Dishes are emptied into the trash, scraped clean of any remaining residue, and set in a sink full of warm soapy water to begin the cleaning process. Each dish is hand washed and thoroughly rinsed. then put into the sanitizer to be sanitized. Once the sanitation process is complete, they're set aside to dry for the remainder of the afternoon. Water buckets are also collected, washed and sanitized, and refilled at this time. Cleaning the cat kennels follows a similar pattern, with the exception that cat kennels are cleaned individually rather than as a group. The cat is removed from the kennel while it's being cleaned, as is all the kennel contents. Litter pans are emptied along with the water and food bowls, and they're prepared for washing. All the newspaper, bedding, and toys are removed from the kennel at this time. The kennel is swept, scraped if necessary, and sprayed with a sanitizing chemical both inside and out. Fresh cloths are used to wipe the kennel down and dry it thoroughly before the kennel contents are replaced, along with a fresh fleece on the lower level and food and water bowls. The clean litter pan is put back into the litter cubby. The cat is returned to the kennel with a full bowl of food and water. Once all the kennels have been cleaned, the dishes are washed and sanitized, the trash is carried out, and the floors are mopped. Windows and doors are cleaned only as frequently as necessary. This brief summary merely gives an overview of the cleaning process. Specific instructions will be given to you when you decide to serve in this capacity. Remember, loving an animal is not limited to petting and playing with it. Ensuring their health by caring for their environment is one of the best ways to show love to an animal. There are many areas in the shelter that must be cleaned every day other than just the individual kennels. There are cat nurseries and colony rooms, the dog of the day dorm, puppy kennels, office areas, bathrooms, hallways, the meet and greet rooms, and the lobby. There is plenty of trash to be removed, and the crates that have transported animals to the vet every morning must also be cleaned. There is a lot of work that goes into having the shelter ready to open each day by noon, and every bit of help is greatly appreciated. Thank you for your interest in volunteering with the shelter. As you can tell, there are plenty of volunteer opportunities available to you, but not all may be suitable for you. Give some serious thought to if and where you would like to serve. Contact us if you have questions or need more information. We'll be glad to help. Once you've decided to serve as a shelter volunteer, we will pair you with an experienced volunteer to give you specific, hands-on instructions before you're expected to dive in on your own. Once fully trained, you can volunteer at whatever schedule and interval you desire during shelter hours. We look forward to seeing you at the shelter as a volunteer.
Hi, I'm India, and I'm a volunteer here at the shelter. I've been here for about 2 years now, and as luck would have it, one of the volunteer tasks that I perform very regularly is doing new volunteer training. Thankfully, we've been able to put together this little training video, and you'll probably hear me narrating some of it later. I really enjoy my time here at the shelter. Quite by chance that I ended up here, but it's one of the best decisions that I've made. There's a lot of work. It's not always the most high-class work, but it's very fulfilling. We enjoy being here with one another and doing the work we do for the animals. We're glad that you have decided to investigate being a volunteer with us. We hope that this suits you and that you will continue on through the volunteer process. Thank you.